5. How the Quest Was Won. Alex and Aries followed Athena and the other competitors to the scarlet starting ribbon that had been strung between 2 olive trees. Peering down through the pavilion gardens, they could see the obstacles, each hung with lanterns that cast patches of light on the grass, patches that grew steadily dimmer as the course stretched away towards the flagpole at the finishing line. "I can't believe it," growled Alex, squinting through the trees towards the first obstacle, a network of ropes, its top pegged with several peculiar objects to the long narrow pipe lying flat on the grass beyond.
"Me neither," said Aries, frowning. "Athena's made it really difficult."
Alex cast his eyes up at the starry sky. "I wasn't talking about the obstacles, you great steaming dollop," he said. "I meant the fact that you still want to enter. Anyway, what's different about a climbing net, unless there's a ram tangled up in it?" He glanced at Aries' belly and raised his eyebrows in dismay. "Or squeezing through pipes." "Has it occurred to you," replied Aries dryly, "that despite your lack of support and help this afternoon, I might have a plan?" "You got a plan?" "I hope so." Alex sighed, wondering what sort of plan could possibly help Aries now. "Ladies and gentlemen and, rams," Athena raised her voice as the Greek ghosts drifted out around her to take their places along the roped-off spectators' areas. "I present the Earthbound Assault Course. The oracles have helped me create a competition full of the challenges our winner will face upon modern-day Earth." Curious whispers rippled through the crowd as everyone stared at the strange assortment of obstacles. Which was hardly surprising. You see, the problem was that ever since the oracle's eyesight had become too fuzzy to gaze into pots, they'd taken up psychic ear trumpets instead. And at Athena's request, they tuned these in through layers of rock and soil and buried dog bones to the sacred temple at Delphi. Or rather, the cafe built next to it, where they'd used them to listen to the chatter of tourists and reported back to Athena on exactly what they'd heard. "Oh, it's too hot in here, Joe." "I know it may look a little unusual," said Athena. She snapped her fingers, and a burly man in full armour stepped out of the crowd, jumped up onto the goddess's owl-carved chariot, reined to a white horse, and drove it over to her and waited as she stepped up demurely behind it. "But don't worry." Reaching down, she unclipped a polished goat horn from the side of the chariot and held it to her lips. "Because I shall be giving you a running commentary to tell you about each obstacle as the first athlete reaches it, using this," she said, her voice now ringing out through the trees. "Calling all competitors!" "This is your last chance," hissed Alex urgently. "You have to come home." "No," snapped Aries. "Shan't." At which Aries clamped his mouth tightly shut, feeling an overwhelming combination of annoyance with Alex and puzzlement as to how indeed he might make it even over the first obstacle, let alone finish the whole course, and finish first too. Whilst Alex felt a similarly overwhelming combination of annoyance with Aries, puzzlement as to why Aries remained so proudly stubborn, mixed with the horrible certainty that it'd all end in disaster anyway. So he closed his mouth too, leaving them both in an uncomfortable silence, lost in their own gloomy thoughts, and taking what it proverbially known as the hump. Have you got the hump, Aries? Casting one last tight-lipped glance at Alex, Aries took his place between Theseus, who was busily clanking through his leg stretches, and Jason, who stood basking in the breeze that rippled his hair. A breeze, I might add, filled with the sighs and murmurs of lovesick ladies among the spectators. Alex had by now, as you might imagine, had enough and stumped back around the pavilion to sit alone on its front steps, unable to either stay and watch people make fun of Aries or to leave him on his own. Meanwhile, back at the starting line, Athena leaned down from her chariot and reached for the ribbon. "Ready?" She bounced up and down excitedly on the chariot. "Steady!" her voice a little more than a giggle. Go! There was a blare of trumpets as Athena snatched the ribbon away and the chariot thundered off down the course. The crowd whooped. Women flung rose petals into Jason's path as he sped past in a blur of leopard skin, neck and neck with Atalanta, who raced forwards, her head down, sleek as an otter slicing through water. Theseus sprinted a split second behind them, his spear tilted forwards, his armour glinting in the lantern lights, just a footstep in front of Orpheus and Heracles. And Aries? Well, I'm afraid he had an unrivalled view of 5 Argonauts' bottoms, bobbing up and down and growing smaller as they raced down the grass towards the first obstacle where Athena's chariot was now pulling up. Earth people, her voice drifted back, love going on something called the web. And so we've spun one of our own. Aries thundered towards the web, bemused at the criss-crossing ropes disappearing into the treetops overhead. Earth people, he decided, must be quite strange if they became so excited about such a thing. Now, according to Sybil, Athena went on, giving him a withering stare as he wheezed to a stop in the front of her, Earth people go onto the web to find things online. So tonight the competitors must choose one of the magical tools hanging up there on our line to take to Earth with them if they win. Aries looked overhead to see Jason and Theseus clambering to the top, swift as spiders, deftly picking their way over the ropes. A few seconds later, Jason dropped softly onto the grass on the other side and, pushing his hand back through the ropes, waggled a golden key under Aries' muzzle. This key will open every door on Earth to me, he sneered before sprinting away. Theseus landed next, but instead of racing after Jason, he walked off the course and calmly sat down on a rock. Puzzled, Aries watched as the Argonauts slipped on the sandals he'd collected from the web, stuck out of his dusty feet and chuckled as wings unfurled from the sandal heels and began flapping like baby sparrows. Typical, thought Aries, realising that Theseus intended to fly over the remaining obstacles and cheat, just like he had on that night he killed the Minotaur, when the armour-plated trickster had found his way out through the labyrinth by following the trail of wool he'd laid on the way in.